Today, we're tackling a million-dollar question. What's the actual difference between digital imaging and film imaging? Ask 10 filmmakers and you'll get 10 different answers, ranging in character from regurgitated technical factoids to full-blown religious conviction. And while there may be a nugget of truth in each of these answers, none of them is going to represent the kind of objective and informed perspective useful to someone who hasn't already made up their mind. To get that kind of answer, we need to look at the entirety of the filmmaking process and at the way that these formats necessarily differ, as well as the ways that they can potentially differ. That's exactly what we're going to do over the course of the next 3 videos, starting today with looking at the way these formats capture images. In part 2, we're going to look at the way these captured images can be manipulated, and then in part 3, the way these images can be reproduced. So let's get right into it. I want to start with looking at the top level, indisputable difference between film and digital capture. Film is a photochemical medium, meaning that the light passing through our lens is captured by a light-sensitive negative and then later processed. Digital, on the other hand, is an electronic medium, meaning that that same light passing through the lens hits a sensor which converts that light into an electronic signal and records it. This difference in the way these formats capture light has 3 primary consequences on the capture process. The first practical consequence of film versus digital capture is the difference in media cost. Digital storage is cheaper than ever, while negative film stock remains relatively expensive. On top of this, exposed negative needs to be processed in a laboratory at a per-foot cost before you can do anything with it. So this means that when you're shooting film, every single frame you choose to roll carries a tangible additional cost to it. And it also means that in order to succeed when you're shooting film, you really have to be able to set and adhere to a specific shooting ratio, say 10 minutes of raw footage for every 1 minute of final runtime, or you need to have a flexible enough budget to buy more film if you go over that ratio. The second practical consequence of film versus digital capture is on our ability to monitor the image. Now, because film requires processing to be rendered visible, we have to capture it sight unseen, while with digital, we can see exactly what we're capturing as it's happening. The only way to do this with film would be by inserting a digital sensor into the camera, but even then, we're not actually seeing what's being captured, but rather a digital approximation of it. I'm not here to argue for the superiority of one approach over the other, but I think we can agree that each of these options is going to have a significant impact on the way you shoot. The third, and perhaps the biggest, practical consequence of film versus digital capture is on the aesthetics of our captured image. Digital sensors are designed to accurately capture raw image data, and they're getting better and better at this all the time. Film negative has a fundamentally different design. It imparts aesthetics on our image that were not present in the original measurable light of the scene. Why is this? First, because film is an imperfect analog format, and in fact, a lot of the qualities that we associate with film that we find desirable about film, like grain and halation and gate weave, are technically imperfections in this analog system. Second, film is engineered to do more than to give you a neutral, accurate capture of your scene data. It's trying to enhance the color of your image. And after nearly a century of engineering, it does a damn good job of it. So if we choose to shoot digital, does this mean that we're forever barred from the aesthetics of film negative? Absolutely not. All of the qualities that I'm talking about can be measured, modeled, and reproduced digitally. What it does mean is that it's on us to do this and of course to do it well. This is a theme that we're going to be returning to throughout this series, and we're going to explore it hands-on in our next video. We're off to a great start in our survey of the key differences between film and digital imaging. Thus far, you may not feel like you've heard anything brand new, but in part 2, we're going to get into the most misunderstood phase of this process for both film and digital capture, the image pipeline and the color grade. For that installment, we're going to get hands-on and see for ourselves the huge impact that this phase of the process can have on our images. See you then.